We left off last video getting our map up and running and our logo up top on the map. In this video, we're going to build this list that you see in the design here. Well, the basics of this list, right? It won't be fully populated like you see here. Now, this is going to be the first challenge of the course, because what we're going to build is a pretty basic list in custom cell. We've went over this a few times in SwiftUI fundamentals. So if you would like to try to, take a look at the design here, pause it, take a screenshot, whatever, and then try to build that on your own. And then, come back, we're gonna build it together. It's fun to see maybe some of the approaches that you took versus the approach that I took and compare and contrast. Or if you don't wanna do the challenge, just keep watching, we're gonna build it together. But I recommend you do these challenges and try to build things by yourselves. You're going to learn a lot more that way. All right, let's go. So from our location map view, let's open up our location list view, which again is just nothing right now. The first thing we're going to do, because our location list view is going to be able to navigate to another view, we want to wrap this in a navigation view, right? Because when you tap on a location, we're going to eventually have a navigation link that links to another view. So right now, not just navigation view. Sometimes it's hard to code while talking and explaining and know you're being filmed. It's a skill set, trust me. Anyway, so navigation view, great. We can't really see anything. The navigation bar is there, but there's no title. You just can't see it. So on our text, we want to add, just for right now, we're going to remove this, .navigation title. And remember, you want to put your navigation titles on the objects within the navigation view. Because if you want to think of the navigation view as just like a container that is holding the other views. So the container doesn't have the title because that kind of stays constant. The items within the container have the title, so the title can change depending on what view is showing, right? So we're gonna name this grub spots. This is our list. Name it whatever you want, but this is gonna be our list, right? So again, I just put that up there so you can see the look we're going for. So now, we want to make a list of things here, right? So, I don't know, you know what? I'm gonna cut this because we're gonna paste it eventually, or you can just delete it, whatever. But what I'm going to create here is we'll keep the location list there. We'll do a list, and then we're gonna do for each, initialize that. And for right now, we're just gonna do a range, because eventually we're gonna populate this list with an array of locations, right, that has all the data. But for right now in our skeletal kind of UI, we're gonna have to pass in a range. We're just gonna show 10 locations, right? So I want the range one, right? So I'm gonna go 0, I'm sorry, up into 10, right? So 0 through 9, so 10 items. And then the content, you can kind of delete that and then open up the view builder, and we will cut and paste our text into the content of the for each. I think I messed something up. Sometimes the for each syntax gets me. Let's see what I messed up here. Oh, I know, I forgot the item in. There we go. Again, the for each, it always gets me. You ever have some syntax that no matter how many times you've written it, it trips you up? The for each is one of those for me. Okay, so now let me reload the preview, and we should see just 10. Yeah, there we go. Super basic list. Oh crap, I forgot. Dang it, and I already pasted, so I lost my cut and paste. So on the list, we want to add navigation title. Yeah, we'll get some practice at it. Grub spots, right? There you go. So you can see the super basics of our list is coming together, except instead of showing 10 just text, this is where we want to start building our custom cell that is going to show the location, right? And if I put up the design, you can see we got the circle image, the name of the location, and then, we show some avatar circles if people are there. We show nobody checked in if nobody's there. So that's what we're going to build right now. Okay, so first things first, and this is typical of all cells, it's pretty much an H stack, right? Again, pulling up the design, you can see the elements of the H stack. You got the circle image and then the text. So first thing I want to do is build get rid of the text there, H stack. And then once we refactor out into our own custom view here, we kind of get the H stack for free. We'll address that later. For right now, we need that. So the first element in our H stack is we want an image, right? So image, and then that is going to be named. Eventually, we're going to pass in the location name, and we actually got to do a lot of work to convert a CK asset, which is a CloudKit asset, into an image. So there's a whole couple videos on that process. For right now, it's pretty easy because we just have in our assets, right, we have this default -square-asset. So we're going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste that back into our location list view here. Do that, Command V, there you go, and we're going to see giant images that make no sense as to what we want. Yeah, not what we want. So again, with images, dot resizable, there we go, and then I want to do dot scale to fit, and then I want to give it a frame of 80 by 80. And now if I knew I was doing an 80 by 80 frame and I know my source image is a square, probably don't have to do scale to fit, because the scale's not going to get messed up, but I like to do that just to be safe. So now we are starting to come together. However, we don't want a square, right? We want a circle. Well, clipping a circle on an image is actually quite simple, right? On the image, it's a clip shape modifier, and then the shape we want to give it, it already defaults to a circle, but if you wanted to give it a square or whatever, rounded rectangle, if you have your own custom shape, which we're going to build later, that'll work too, but circle is exactly what we want, so I'm going to hit return there. And then lastly, they're kind of cramped, right? Again, if you look at the design, I don't know. I like my UI to be spacious. I don't like a cramped UI. I like negative space here. So I'm going to add padding, but not on the left and right. Like I don't care about the left and right padding. I just want the vertical padding, right? So I'm going to do that. So dot padding, and then if you do that, you can do dot vertical, and then so that gives padding vertical. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. And again, this is just me. Remember I said when I'm building it, I start tweaking the design left and right. So I started with just vertical. That felt like a little too much. So I tweaked it down and just gave it like an 8 constant, right? So it gives me a little space, but not as much. I'm going to show you that again. Watch the preview. So when I delete the 8, see how much space there is? A lot of space. When I give it the 8, space crunches up, but not too much. So again, this is what I'm talking about, dialing in the design as you're building, right? So I tried many different numbers to get 8, to what I liked it to be. So now that we got the image sorted, we want a VStack, right? Because we have the title of the location, and then below that, we either have, an array of avatar images, which we'll create here in a second, or the nobody's here. We're not going to do the nobody's here yet. We'll come back to that when we actually build that logic. But just again, to get the look and feel of our UI, we'll do the array of like avatar images. But so to the right of our image in the H stack, we're going to need a VStack, all right? And the first item in our VStack is a text, and the text is going to be, test location name. I always like to test something that's like reasonably long enough so I can kind of see it, right? Because if you're testing stuff with just, really, really short names, you might not be able to test the long name kind of use case. So anyway, so now we want to start adding some modifiers to this text. And that we want the font to be .title 2. And again, between title 1, title 2, title 3, right? That's just different sizing. And how I came up with that font, dot semi-bold, or font weight, I'm sorry. This is the font weight modifier, not just font. We want semi-bold. Here you can see all the different font weights, right? Heavy, light, medium, regular, semi-bold, thin, whatever. I wanted semi-bold. And again, this is just my taste, my like. I trial and error. If you want to mix up the design a little bit, have at it. But this is what I went with. And then for the title, I wanted to limit my lines, right? I don't want a title to be like 3 lines long. Like watch if I start typing, right? You see, I don't want my title to like take up so much space like that. So I want to put a line limit on this title name, right? So it only goes to 1. And if it's longer than 1, it'll truncate the title. And that's, again, the look I wanted to go for. Because I felt like if I kept adding lines to it, it would mess up my whole UI flow. So to do that, you do line limit 1. So that'll make sure it's only 1 line long. And then in order to handle the super long name, just in case, you can do minimum scale factor, and I always like to do 0.75. So what that means is, as it gets long enough, before it truncates, it's going to shrink down to 75% of this size, and if it shrinks down to 75% of the size and still doesn't fit, okay, now we'll go ahead and truncate the title. So we'll try that again. Test. You see it shrinking. Okay, now it finally truncated, but it shrunk a little bit before it truncated. So that's how I like to handle my like long text. Okay, so now that we have the name, below the name, we want to have our H stack of all the avatar images, right? All the avatars that show up. So again, we're going to have an H stack here. And for now, because we're just kind of getting the UI working, like I'm not going to create a for each and go through the array. We're going to do that eventually, but I'll save that for now. But again, when I'm giving you the real life of like how I actually built this, how I actually tested this, right? So I kind of do it in phases, as you're going to see. So for the avatar image view, I want this to be an image, right? And name, again, we have this in our assets here, default avatar, right? Eventually this is going to be, we're going to download the users from this location, and we're going to populate their avatar with this. But again, just for now, we will, do that. Now, again, this is going to be ridiculously huge because we got to do resizable, give it a frame, all that good stuff. Okay, dot resizable, cool. And again, I always do dot scaled to fit. This is kind of just to be safe, just in case something weird happens. And then we're going to give it a frame of size 35 by 35. So we'll do 35 and 35. And then you see it starting to come together there. And then finally, clip shape, just like we did before, is going to be a circle. So there you can see we just have one. And if we populate this H stack here, we'll do a copy. We're going to refactor this right now because I can't stand doing this, but I always do this just to like demonstrate it. There you go. You can start to see our avatar images popping up. Now you'll notice they're kind of centered under test location name. It's because our VStack, that is our location name in our avatar views, doesn't have an alignment modifier. So it defaults to center. So we want to give an alignment of, I don't want to hit return because it'll give me all the other stuff and it'll mess me up, dot leading. Right now you're going to see, bam, they kind of lead. So now we're going to refactor out this image real quick because this also gets reused. If I pull up the profile screen, it gets reused on the profile screen. So we're going to definitely use this again. So what I'm going to do, click on image, command click it, and real quick, in order to get this abstract subview, I believe your canvas has to be open. I noticed in previous courses, sometimes people were saying it didn't work, or I think I even said sometimes it doesn't work. Turns out, as long as your canvas is open, it'll work. So we're going to extract this image into a subview, and I'm going to call it avatar view. And then that way, when I come back up here, we just do avatar view and get rid of this stuff. We're actually going to be tweaking this avatar view a little more because our size needs to be dynamic. Well, we want to pass in, the image, right? And then eventually we also want our size to be dynamic because we're going to reuse this avatar view on the profile screen, like I was kind of mentioning. All right, hit resume. We should see 5 avatar views there. Cool. And I'm not going to do like 6 or 7 because that'll mess up the UI. As you can see in the design, the way we're going to, write the logic for this, if there's more than 5 of them, we're going to put the +3 at the end of it, and that's how we're going to keep track of everybody. But again, we're just building the skeleton here just to get a feel for how the app is going to like look and feel. So that's the HStack of our avatar views. That is essentially our custom self for now. Again, there's a lot more work to be done, actually. The last thing I'm looking at is I feel like this circle in our VStack is a little too cramped. I want there to be a little more space in between. So for that, on the HStack here, I can do dot padding. And again, I don't want padding all around because watch what happens when I do that, right? Look at my avatar views. It gives padding around all 4 edges. Remember, you can designate what edges you want. I'm going to do dot leading. Actually, I don't want this on the HStack. I want this on the whole VStack. My bad. Again, that's kind of the tricky part of SwiftUI when things start to get like really nested before you refactor. Once you refactor, it's not bad. But before you refactor, you got to make sure you're putting it on the right thing. So I'm going to Command V onto the VStack leading. Okay, so that's fine, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes I might want to make that a little smaller, but I feel like that's going to be fine for now. All right, so that's the basic structure of the location list view. So if you did the challenge, I'm curious how your code differentiated from mine. I think the main differentiator might be that maybe you did take it a little farther and add the conditional for showing nobody checked in. I don't know. I only kind of I didn't go all the way with it, right? Because I know we're doing a lot more. So I kind of just got the basics in, again, just so we can get the feel for it, right? Because what I like to do, as my first steps for building, run the app, you can see we're going to start clicking on our tabs, and you can start to see, like I said, the app come together. All right, like here's our map, cool. And then when I tap on locations, there we go. And again, Command-Shift-A to get the dark mode action. Map, locations, right? Again, you can feel it coming together. It gets exciting. This is like the fun part, right? The downside is once you get past this fun part, that's like relatively quick and easy to do, maybe in an afternoon, you can have the whole app looking and feeling good. But then comes like all the logic, all the data, all that stuff. And then it kind of gets to become a grind. So I like to do this fun stuff first. It gets gets me excited about it. So yeah, next up, we're going to do the location detail screen. I don't have it built here. So here's the design. And then we'll do the profile screen in a future video. But I'm going to issue challenges at the beginning of each of those videos because it is pretty standard, UI building, just like we did on this one. So be ready for those. All right, let's keep it moving.